They vanished. The morning of our flight, they weren't there. I called, my mom picked up and said they took her instead. My sister. The one who hasn't worked in years. The trip I planned, paid for, dreamed of. Stolen. By my own family. And my sister was already halfway to Europe in my seat. I had been planning this for months. I paid for everything, 3 first-class tickets for a 1-week luxury trip across Europe. 5-star hotels, Michelin-star meals, pre-booked tours. All of it. I wanted to give my parents something unforgettable, something they never had before. They'd never traveled outside the country, and I thought, after everything they'd done for me growing up, this was my way to say thanks. I was wrong. The idea started 6 months ago. I work in tech and had just gotten a decent promotion. I thought, this is the moment. Let me take my mom and dad on a trip they'll never forget. I paid in full $18,600 for the entire thing, no discounts, no points. I didn't even tell them about it until everything was locked in. When I finally did, they were surprised. My dad looked at me and said, "That's a lot of money, you sure?" And my mom just nodded like it was whatever. No big reaction. I brushed it off. Maybe it hadn't sunken yet. Fast forward to the night before the flight. I drove over to their house to help them pack. Everything seemed normal. We went through the checklist, passports, chargers, meds, everything. My mom asked a few times if the hotel had room service, and my dad just kept repeating, "Hope it's not too cold over there." That should have been a red flag. They were weirdly distant about the whole thing, like they weren't even that excited. But I just kept thinking they'll feel it when we get there. Then, the morning of the flight came. I showed up at 5 a.m. ready to drive us to the airport. Luggage packed in the trunk. I texted them, "Here." No response. I waited. Then my mom called me, sounding casual like she was asking about laundry. She said, "Hey, we're not coming. We're taking your sister instead. She needs the rest more than you." I actually thought I misheard her. "What?" I asked. She said it again like it was no big deal. "Yeah, she hasn't been well. She's tired. She just needs something nice, you know? And she's been feeling down lately." My sister, the same one who hasn't worked in 3 years, lives at home, barely speaks to me unless she wants something. And now suddenly she's on a plane to Europe. With the trip I planned. Paid for them. I pulled into their driveway thinking it had to be some misunderstanding. I knocked. My dad answered and wouldn't even look me in the eye. I saw my sister standing behind him with her suitcase. She looked smug. No other word for it. Like she just won something. I was trying to hold it together, still expecting someone to say, "Okay, this was a joke," or "Let's all go." But then my mom came out and said, "There's only 3 tickets. You booked it that way? It didn't make sense for you to come if she needed it more." I couldn't believe it. I stood there with my hands shaking. My voice was stuck somewhere between laughing and yelling. I said, "I booked this for you. Not for her." "What do you mean I'm not going?" She rolled her eyes. "You're a man, you'll have more chances." She needed a break. "Don't make this a drama." They got in the car, not mine, a separate Uber my dad had called, and left. I watched them drive away while I stood outside their house, alone, with my engine still running. I called my mom twice. No answer. Then I got a text. "Don't be selfish. Let her enjoy something for once." I didn't reply. I went home and sat in my living room staring at the wall. My suitcase was still in my trunk. I hadn't even taken it out. Later that night, I checked their flight. Yep, they were in the air. On my dime. Staying in the exact hotels I booked, eating the food I researched, taking the tours I arranged. With my sister. I didn't sleep that night. Or the next. The worst part? I still couldn't believe they actually went through with it. My parents. The people I bent over backward to please. And they threw me aside like I was nothing. Not even a discussion. Just replaced me. Replaced their son with the daughter who's done nothing for herself in years. All because she needed rest. The morning after they left, I was still in disbelief. I hadn't slept. I kept pacing between my living room and kitchen, trying to understand what just happened. I had texts from a few friends wishing me a good trip, and every time I saw one pop up, it was like a punch to the chest. I didn't respond to any of them. At around 9 a.m. I opened Instagram. First thing I saw? My sister's story. A photo of her lying on a massive hotel bed with the caption, "Deserved rest." The next one was a video of my mom laughing while my dad held up a plate of some fancy French dessert. Then a group photo, the 3 of them smiling in front of the Eiffel Tower. I stared at it for 10 minutes straight. I hadn't even told anyone what happened yet. I was too embarrassed. How do you even say that? I bought my parents a trip to Europe and they ditched me last minute to take my freeloading sister instead? I was still processing it myself. Around noon I finally called my cousin. We're close. He's one of the few people I actually trust in my family. When I told him what happened, he paused for a long time and said, "Wait, they really left you behind?" Like, actually left? Yeah, I said. They're in Paris right now. With my tickets. I booked everything. He didn't even try to sugarcoat it. He said, "Dude, that's beyond messed up." Then he told me something I didn't expect. Apparently, my mom had been talking to my aunt about a special gift for her daughter for weeks, saying she was so worried about how my sister's mental health was suffering and that she deserved something beautiful to look forward to. He said he overheard my aunt on a call 2 weeks ago saying it's great she gets to go to Europe finally. They knew. For weeks. My mom had planned it. My sister knew. My dad knew. I was the only one who didn't. I was just the wallet. They waited until the very last minute to tell me when it was too late for me to cancel the bookings, too late to get refunds, too late to do anything except stand there like an idiot. I didn't know whether I was more angry or humiliated. I finally sent a message to the group chat we had, me, Mom, Dad, and my sister. Me, just to be clear, you knew this wasn't for her. I planned this trip for you. I paid every cent. And you left me behind. You used me. 10 minutes later, my mom replied, "Mom, please don't make this into a thing. You have so many blessings." She doesn't. She needed this. You'll understand one day. My sister sent a thumbs up emoji. That was it. No apology. No ownership. Nothing. Later that evening, I got a call from my aunt, the same one who apparently knew all about this. She started with, "I heard you're upset," in the fakest concerned voice I've ever heard. I told her straight up, I'm not upset. I'm done. I'm done being treated like the backup plan in this family. She said, "That's not fair. Your sister's been through a lot." I asked, "What exactly has she been through? Living rent-free at home while everyone else covers her expenses?" No answer. Just silence. The next few days were torture. Every time I opened my phone, there was some new post. A fancy dinner. A boat ride. A shopping spree. All things I had paid for. Places I had researched and dreamed of seeing. And they were walking through them like it was just another day. Like I never existed in that plan. They didn't even try to hide it. And I still hadn't told most of my friends. The humiliation was eating me from the inside. I started digging into the airline and hotel policies just out of desperation. I knew it was probably too late to do anything, but I wanted to see if I could cancel the rest of the hotel stays or tours, something, anything. But everything was non-refundable or already used. The worst part? I didn't even want revenge. I just wanted acknowledgement. I wanted someone, anyone in my family to say, "We screwed you over. We're sorry." But no one did. Instead, on the third night of their trip, I got a message from my dad. "Dad, Paris is amazing. You were right. Thanks for making this happen." I stared at it, trying to process whether he was actually being serious or if he just had zero awareness of what he'd done. That message broke something in me. He wasn't thanking me. He was rubbing it in, pretending like this was all still some nice gesture I made for them even after throwing me aside. I didn't respond. I went completely silent after that. But I started remembering things. Little things over the years. Times they brushed off my accomplishments but celebrated my sister's smallest steps like they were world-shaking. She got a part-time job at a coffee shop once for 3 weeks. They threw her a dinner. I got my degree with honors? My mom said, "Oh, that's nice," and changed the subject. This wasn't new. It was just the biggest, clearest version of the pattern. And this time, it cost me thousands of dollars. And a part of my sanity. I didn't respond to my dad's message. I archived the group chat. I deleted Instagram for a few days. But in the back of my head, I was thinking there's no way they think this is okay. I was wrong again. They came back 5 days later, a day early. I knew they were landing in the evening, but I didn't reach out. I stayed home. I didn't ask how the trip went. I didn't check the flight. I figured they'd realize what they'd done and maybe come over, apologize, say something, anything that resembled accountability. But nope. At 9 p.m., my sister posted another photo. She was back in her room, holding a bag from a designer store with the caption, "Paris was healing kiss mark." I turned off my phone again. The next morning, my mom called me. First time she reached out since I confronted them before the trip. She said, "Can you come over? We brought back gifts for everyone." I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I just hung up. But later that day, curiosity got the better of me. I wanted to see how far they'd take this. I drove to their house around 3 p.m. When I walked in, they were all sitting at the kitchen table like nothing happened. My sister was showing off pictures on her phone. My dad was drinking coffee. My mom greeted me like I was a guest they hadn't seen in a year. "We got you something from Rome," she said, like it was an afterthought. She handed me a small box. Inside was a magnet, a $2 souvenir. That was my thank you for paying almost 19 grand and being kicked off the trip. I stared at it, then looked at her. "Are you serious?" She laughed nervously and said, "Don't be dramatic. We had limited space." Then she launched into a story about how they almost missed a train in Florence, like we were catching up over lunch. My dad added, "You'd have loved the pizza in Naples. It's not like anything we've had here." I kept looking at both of them, waiting for one of them to snap out of it and say, "We messed up." Instead, my sister chimed in with, "I really needed that trip. I feel reset now." I said, "You didn't need the trip. You took the trip." She narrowed her eyes. "It wasn't a big deal. You'll survive." I said, "It wasn't yours." That's when my mom stood up and said, "Okay, enough. We're not doing this. We've moved on from it. You should too." I laughed. It wasn't even real laughter. It was the kind of laugh you let out when the pressure in your chest needs to escape somehow. You moved on? You stole a gift that wasn't even yours, and now you're acting like it's ancient history. My dad slammed his cup on the table. He said, "We're done talking about this. Be grateful your sister got something good for once. Don't be jealous." Jealous. That word set me off. I looked him straight in the eye. "I'm not jealous. I'm done. I spent almost $19,000 on something meant for you. And instead of being grateful, you cut me out of my own plan, and now you're telling me to be grateful." No one said anything, so I turned around and left. And that was the last time I walked into that house. I didn't answer their texts after that. I didn't pick up their calls. My cousin, the only sane one, called me a few days later and said my parents were hurt that I was ghosting them. I told him, "You can't ghost people who never saw you in the first place." He didn't argue. A week later, I started getting messages from relatives, some neutral, some trying to guilt-trip me. My aunt, same one from earlier, sent a message saying, "Families fight, but you only get one set of parents. You shouldn't punish them forever." I replied, "Families don't steal from each other and act like it's normal." Blocked her after that. Then came the real kicker. 2 weeks after they got back, I checked my credit card account. My dad had used the travel card I let him hold temporarily for emergencies during the trip after they returned. He charged $160 at a local steakhouse. Not even a day after they landed. I hadn't canceled the card yet. That was on me. But still, he used my card again like it was his. No heads up. No message. Nothing. I called the card company. Reported it lost. Canceled it immediately. That night, my dad texted me, "You canceled the card? I thought you said I could use it for emergencies." I didn't reply. 3 hours later, my mom messaged, "Is this really how you treat family now?" "Yes, it is." That was the moment everything solidified for me. This wasn't about a trip anymore. This was about patterns. Decades of being treated like the backup child. The financial support. The emotional afterthought. The ATM with a heartbeat. They weren't sorry. They thought I would take it. Like I always did. After the card incident, I decided I was done playing along. No more texts. No more calls. No more pretending. I wasn't going to be the good son who just puts his head down and swallows disrespect. I started by going completely no contact. I blocked them all, my mom, my dad, my sister, on everything. Phone, social media, messaging apps. The only person I kept in touch with was my cousin. He respected the boundary. Everyone else? They treated it like a challenge. First week of silence, I got nothing. It was like they didn't even notice I'd disappeared. Second week, my mom started emailing me. First it was casual. "Your dad's birthday is next month. Should we go to that Italian place?" Then it shifted to guilt. "You've changed. We don't know what we did that was so unforgivable." Then it got aggressive. "Ignoring your family like this is disgusting. After all we've done for you." I didn't respond to any of it. I'd spent most of my adult life brushing off their behavior, excusing it, explaining it away. Not anymore. I started therapy. I showed my therapist the email thread. She looked me dead in the eyes and said, "That's not guilt. That's manipulation." She was right. Because a month after the trip I found out they were talking about me behind my back. A friend from high school who happens to work with my dad's friend texted me and said, "Hey, just wanted you to know your parents are telling people you canceled the trip last minute and your sister had to fill in so the tickets wouldn't go to waste." That one hit hard. They were rewriting the story, making me look like the flake. Like I was the one who backed out and they were just being resourceful. I was furious. But I didn't break no contact. Instead, I gathered every receipt. Emails, booking confirmations, card statements, even the text where my mom said, "We're taking your sister instead." Then I posted everything in a private album and sent it to every family member who reached out to check in on the situation. No explanations. Just facts. Then I turned off my phone. 3 days later, my cousin called me and said, "Dude, that blew up." Apparently, several relatives had no idea what had really happened. They'd been told some watered-down version of the truth, like I canceled last minute and caused a scene over nothing. But once they saw the messages, the receipts, the total cost, and the timeline, the whole thing shifted. Some of them reached out to me directly. A couple even apologized on behalf of my parents. But here's the wild part: when they confronted my mom about it, she doubled down. She told them he's always been dramatic. We were just trying to be practical. His sister needed rest. He's a grown man. He'll survive. She called it practical. Taking a fully planned, prepaid international trip from your son and giving it to someone else without asking. Practical. That was the final confirmation I needed. There was no misunderstanding. No poor communication. They did what they did because they wanted to. And they believed they had the right. So I took the final step. I changed the password on their shared Netflix account that I'd been paying for, removed their access to my streaming services, canceled the extra phone line I was covering, and removed them as authorized users on every financial account they'd ever been tied to. I got a call from my sister first. "Why can't I log into HBO?" she asked, like it was some tech issue. I said, "Because I don't pay for thieves." She started yelling, said I was being petty, that I was holding a grudge over a vacation. I said it wasn't a vacation. It was theft. You took something that wasn't yours. And you didn't even flinch doing it. She hung up on me. The next day, my dad left a voicemail. First one in weeks. "You're taking this too far. You're making it hard for everyone over something that wasn't personal. You're being cold. Not personal. They took me off my own trip, used me to fund theirs, replaced me like I was nothing, and then smeared my name when I didn't play along, and now it was me who was taking it too far." I didn't even listen to the whole message. I deleted it. Then came the message that really showed their hand. My mom emailed me a list. Yes, a list. It was titled, "Things we did for you growing up that you should be grateful for." Itemized. Bullet points. From changing my diapers to buying me school supplies. And at the end. "So one trip going differently shouldn't make you forget all of this." I stared at that email for a long time. They weren't sorry. They were keeping score. Everything they ever did for me they viewed as a transaction with interest. And now they were cashing it in. This wasn't love. This was control. And I was out. 2 months after the trip, things were quiet. Too quiet. No more emails. No voicemails. My therapist helped me stay firm on boundaries. I focused on work, ignored their social media, lived my life. It was finally peaceful. Then they showed up. At my job. I was in a meeting when the front desk buzzed. The receptionist said, "Hey, your parents are here to see you." I thought it was a joke. I walked out and there they were. My mom, dad, and my sister standing in the lobby. Dressed casually. Like it was normal. I pulled them aside, completely stunned. "What are you doing here?" My mom smiled and said, "We figured if you won't answer your phone, we'd come talk in person." I said, "At work? Are you serious?" Then my dad jumped in. "You blocked us. What were we supposed to do?" I replied, "Respect that." He shrugged. "We just want to move forward. Can't we just forget the whole thing?" My sister stepped forward and said, "We already apologized. It's been months." I said, "No one apologized. You lied, stole, and smeared me. You didn't even pretend to be sorry. They didn't deny it." Then my mom pulled out an envelope and handed it to me. Inside was a check. For $1,000. I laughed in her face. "Is this supposed to fix it?" She said. "We figured it would help. At least cover some of what you lost." "Not even a quarter of what I paid," I said. "And you think money makes this better?" She snapped. "You're being difficult. We came all this way." I stepped back. "You came here to clean your image. Not to fix anything. They looked stunned. I turned around and walked back inside. Told the front desk not to let them back in again. Later that night, I shredded the check. That was it for me. The next week, I changed my phone number, updated my emergency contacts, took my parents off everything. My cousin called me, said he had just come from a family dinner. He told me they were planning another trip. To Greece this time. Guess who they were taking? Just my sister. No mention of me. No attempt to fix anything. Just more of the same. That was the final confirmation I needed. They never saw me as family, just as a resource. And now, I'm done.